Okay, good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to warn you, this is pretty long, but I think it's important stuff because I've gotten a couple of messages from different people on our team regarding the same kind of topic, and I want to address this as best I can. And it has to do with recruiting and these college events and these showcases. And I'm not an expert, but I've seen a little bit with my older son who had aspirations of playing college baseball and then quickly kind of gave that up. I'm also putting Brian on here. He as the director of our organization has seen and helped a lot of kids get recruited. His own son, Bryce, is a senior at Elkhart, just committed to go to a Division II school, so he can kind of offer some insight into these things as well. So I want to kind of jump in and talk about what I think are maybe some of the money grabs or the things to be cautious about. So the first thing I would do before any of this even happens is have an honest evaluation of your own son and their abilities, and have an honest conversation with what they want to do and like where they want to go. I am never going to tell a kid or a family, can't do this. You're not going to achieve this level, because again, if kids work hard, I don't want to discourage any of that stuff. But there are certain numbers that kind of bear out the difference between a D1, a D2, D3 NAIA, and those coaches know those numbers. Yeah, sometimes they like a kid's makeup, and they're like, you know what, that's a kid that we can project that can maybe grow or fill out a little bit more, or he can compete a little bit, that maybe outperform some of his baseline numbers. But you gotta kind of have some of that awareness, and all that. So I want to talk about this email here that Monica shared with me. Also, Tim reached out to me about it. I have the same exact email, so I'm guessing that pretty much everybody on the team somehow got this email. And it sounds awesome. It's a personal invite, over 55 colleges. It's a national recruiting event. Okay. Best in the US showcases.com. Now, I haven't heard of them. Doesn't mean it's not a great organization. Doesn't mean they don't do things right. I'm sure if I dug into it, I could probably find out more stuff. But you look here, it's like, man, there's some big time schools here. But let's ask ourselves and be honest. Do I see my son playing for a school that won the national championship 5 years ago? That'd be great. That'd be a dream. I'm a huge Illinois fan. Okay. I would love nothing more for my son to go play baseball there. However, do I think that he's going to go play for one of these two schools, which are always in the top 4 or 5 in the Big Ten? Probably not. Okay. Now, not to say it can't happen. My other caution with this is it's right here in the middle of the summer. It's July 20th and 21st. PBR and Perfect Game run tournament-like events all through the summer in places, to do some of these evaluations and to get some of these numbers. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the fall that also is used to get numbers, and in the winter, in the off season. So I think it's a little interesting that they're looking to grab kids in the middle of their high school summer travel ball season. If this was maybe in August or in March, I might be a little bit more inclined to say this is probably something that you'd want to do. The other thing here too is, I look at all these schools here, which are great. I mean, there's a list of Division I schools, but however, again, am I evaluating my kid as a Division I kid? And I'll kind of get into that too. I look at some of these smaller schools here, and it looks like there's like a West Coast kind of feel. Again, I don't know these schools. That's what's great about Sports Recruits is we had that tool to kind of look up these schools to figure out where is Newman University, what level is it? Is it something that my kid would even be interested in? Again, I don't know how many kids would want to go out to a small school in Arizona just to play baseball. Okay, so again, that's why it's important to have those conversations with your kid. I personally don't know how much value you would get out of this. I know in the past, again, because I was learning with my oldest son, Carter wanted to go to an event kind of like this, not quite as many coaches. And a lot of times the coaches were just running small groups and stations. They weren't sitting there with their own guns. Somebody else had all those information when the event was over. The coaches got all the metrics, and then you get some of the bigger schools will just say, "Hey, we're running this camp. You can come down for 4 days and blah blah blah." That's their big money grab that they're trying to get kids to just come and camp and stay and all that. Then some of the smaller schools, like say a Center College, would be like, "Hey, we really like your son. We're impressed by this. Can we get him on here for one of our invite only camps on this date?" There is some value to this. You just got to kind of look at how realistic is it that our kids will get invited to some of these. Are they more likely to want to go to one of these schools? So, kind of on that same note, perfect game. Um, I get stuff from Perfect Game all the time. I imagine you guys do too. About hey, we want to see Brady again. Our scouts want to see Brady. That makes as a parent, you're like that lights you up. You're like, holy cow, my son is getting invited to these showcase events. Okay, now again, let's kind of come over here to Perfect Game and look at their event schedule. So I mean, again, they had a ton of events last year, all throughout the country. Okay. Now, again, Perfect Game does a great job of listing stuff and putting profiles together. I think it's great because you can direct college coaches to that, and you also have some numbers to kind of go off of. So I'm going to look at the same event here that I keep getting invites for Brady. Once we don't go to that one, I'm sure I'll get invites to other ones. So the same thing last year, I'll go to workout results and you'll get a whole list. So anybody that wants to see anything on all these kids can pull it up. So I want to look at. I'm a college coach. I just want to look at. I'm looking for arms. So I'm gonna look at the fastballs, fastball velocity. Okay. So at this event last year, the fastest, the peak velocity of all the kids that were there was 83 miles an hour. The kid who's a senior this year. So again, not horrible, but probably not a Division 1 level kid, if we're being perfectly honest. Um, so again, let's look at let's find a try to find an example. So some of these kids are 23s. Just kind of curious. Like let's see like where Andrew Griffith came from. He's got a 7.57 60 time. He's throwing 75 miles an hour off the mound. He's got an exit velo of 71 miles an hour. So those are numbers that are pretty much well below all of our kids. Okay. Um, so again, it'll list the teams that you play for in the summer. Um, it will kind of grade you out. It will give you a nice scouting report with some information. So again, it's quick things for coaches to look at. And the great thing about this too is it gives you a percentile breakdown. So this kid who is a high school sophomore is throwing about in the 36th percentile. So nothing, nothing eye popping there. Doesn't mean he cannot play college baseball and be a pitcher somewhere, but Division 1 is looking at the top 85 to 99% of arms in that percentile. So it gives him and it gives coaches a real good idea like where this kid kind of fits in terms of his numbers. So I would recommend doing something like that if you're looking for some recruiting type stuff. These are numbers that the Rapsodo machine kind of helps us get. It doesn't give us the percentile breakdown, but if you're kind of looking for exit velo, okay, those are some of the numbers we can kind of start to get so you get an idea like where your kid is. We have a pocket radar. We don't do a ton of throwing on Sundays because these kids throw all the time, but we can get something like that over the summer and have that information also to share with coaches. If you're on Twitter, You probably see all the time kids posting videos of I hit 87 today, and they tag all these people in these things. Well, that's great. You hit 87, but are you doing that in a game? A lot of kids can rear back and get an extra 2, 3 miles an hour when they don't care where the ball is going or what the count is. Then you all of a sudden you hit 87. People come to watching the game. You're sitting 83. They don't care. They've kind of been burned by that. You can't really pitch in a game. So again, this is good because perfect game. They give you videos as well. Same thing with PBR. So PBR, I pulled up Cam Nepp. Cam Nepp was one of the absolute best players in our area last year. He committed to play at Taylor University, which is a NAIA school, a very, very good NAIA school in Indiana. I believe Cam last year, I think Joe Urbanski told me he hit, a scout had him like at 88, 89 miles an hour off the mound. Okay, so think about that, 88, 89 miles per hour off the mound. And he went to Taylor University. If you look at Cam's profile here on PBR, again, here's all the numbers. He was ranked as the 106th best prospect in the state of Indiana. Okay. And that's throwing the ball, fastball, 85 miles an hour his last event. So that might give you some indication, and have these conversations with your kids about, okay, where are you projecting long term? So some of our kids have done PBR events. They have some of these numbers. So where you're sitting now, depending on how much you get after it in the weight room and how much work you are putting in daily, there is no reason why a number of our kids couldn't hit 85 by the time they're a senior or going into their senior year. However, look at Cam Nepp. Okay. He has a very similar profile to a lot of our kids, 6'2", 177 pounds. Okay. His exit velo off the bat, pretty similar to where a lot of our kids are projecting. Pretty athletic, but nothing that's going to jump out in terms of a 60-yard time. Okay. So again, he is at Taylor University. If you're curious about, okay, where do these kids stack up? Like, I want to know, like, where does my son kind of fall in? What are these coaches like really looking at? Oops. So let's kind of look at some of the this year's seniors in the state of Indiana. Okay. So like right here, let's look from Northern Indiana, Lake Central. He's going to Purdue. Purdue is a D1 school. It's a great school. They are typically, and I'm saying this as a guy who went to Purdue, and I broadcast Purdue games on the student radio there for 2 years. So I again, long time ago, but I've been around that kind of level of baseball. Here's a kid throwing 94 miles an hour. He's going to Purdue, which is typically, like I said, in the bottom third of the Big Ten in baseball. Okay, that's kind of what you're up against if you're looking to go D1 into some of these higher level D1 schools. Okay, scroll down here a little bit. Let's see if we can find somebody that maybe is a little bit more comparable. All right, so Murray State. This kid ranked 57th in the class of 2021. He's a shortstop. He's going to Murray State, which is a Division I school in Kentucky. Good baseball, maybe not quite at the same level as the Big Ten, but you're going farther south. So again, a lot of those teams are on par with some of the teams in the middle or the bottom of the Big Ten. So again, this is a kid here who was throwing 82 miles an hour across the diamond, 86 miles an hour coming off the bat. You can see his numbers a little bit better than Cam's in terms of athleticism. Okay. So again, have those conversations with your kids. Be aware of some of those numbers. Again, as you kind of come and you scroll down here, you can see, now we're getting into some of the kids that are going to smaller schools in and around the state of Indiana, which is probably a really good fit for a lot of our kids. And again, doesn't mean you can't do it. As you scroll down here, you see some kids that committed to, Butler and higher level schools. So again, that's why I would never pigeonhole a kid, but I don't want, as parents, I don't want you guys throwing away money and chasing things that maybe aren't quite attainable for your kids. I use Cam Nepp as an example because, Northridge was a fantastic team 2 years ago. They had their high school season wiped away last year. Cam is a good kid, and again, he's right down here. I'm sorry, last year he's right, or he was here at 108. Again, Tyler, he's helping us out. Look at Tyler. Okay, 109 in the class of 2021. Okay, again, Tyler, very athletic, fast. Okay, going 90 miles an hour from the outfield. Okay, again, when you look at his fastball velocity, I know it's somewhere on here. Maybe I already missed it, but I think Tyler had a max fastball of 86. I don't know where it is. It's on here somewhere. But again, PBR, they have great videos. Okay, give a scouting report. So again, having these kind of numbers, but again, Tyler's throwing 90 miles an hour from the outfield. Very athletic. Okay, ranked as the 109th player. So again, talk to Tyler. Our kids, Tyler does a good job of talking to our kids about what it takes in the academic money. Tyler is a kid who is a workout fiend. He puts a ton of time into his body and his arm and his conditioning. And that's a credit to Tyler. But Tyler will also tell you Tyler's not being looked at by Purdue or IU, even though he can throw a ball 90 miles an hour. Okay, so have some of those things in mind. The last thing to kind of I kind of want to harp on. I don't want to throw a family out under the bus, but the Pritchett's last year, they left, and their big knock was Cooper's not playing every inning, and we're going to these events, and Cooper's got to play every inning because that's how you get noticed by colleges. And if you're not playing, if you're in and out, college coaches will think that you're not great. Well, if I'm being completely honest, and Brian can tell you, college coaches aren't going to sit and just watch some random kid play a position and scout him at his position. And they're not going to, be looking at, well, why is this kid being shuffled here and there, in and out of the game? They're not. They're going to look for certain movements. They're going to look for certain things. We are blessed. So let's use Joe as an example on our team. Joe has been invited to the PBR games a number of times. Joe is going to a PBR event in March. Joe is probably going to throw 85 to 87 miles an hour. He could probably throw faster than that. They're going to look at his 2024 number. He's going to have a coach that looks at us. Again, we can use sports recruits to say, hey, guess what? Joe Chineri, he's going to throw, Joe wants to go to this school. He's looking at this school. Joe is going to throw at Grant Park on Thursday. Okay. That coach may come to watch because, again, a kid in the 2024 class is throwing 86 miles an hour. Pretty impressive to watch. Wants to come watch. So they may come and watch that game, and they may see one of our other kids make a play in the field. They may see somebody behind the plate. Okay? They may see one of our kids swing the bat. Then they may come and get some information from us. They may want to talk to me. They may want to talk to you as a parent. But at the end of the day, they'll probably come back and they'll probably look to see if you have some of these numbers. Okay. My neighbor, Nolan Metcalf, okay, state champion at Penn. He really didn't get heavily involved in a lot of this PBR stuff and playing for an elite travel ball program until after his junior season. And he had a really good day one day down at Grant Park. Some coaches kind of looked at him. They went and saw his PBR numbers, and they're like, okay, this kid's legit. He can hit. It wasn't just a one-off. And things moved pretty quickly for him, and he ended up at Kansas University to play baseball. So again, there may be coaches at Grand Park for some of our events, but that's not going to be the norm. Like when we're at Notre Dame, these other events, there aren't college coaches just sitting there for hours watching random kids. They know who they're coming to watch. Indiana State might be coming to watch Jack Tallman play, and they're also maybe looking at this kid here. Okay, maybe they play on the same travel ball team, so maybe I can kind of look at one of my own kids, but I can also maybe scout somebody else. So they use these services. So I'm not trying to push anybody either way. I don't think that you should be doing a million of these PBR perfect game events. I do think doing one a year is good because you can see the growth of the numbers. Coaches can kind of project where these kids might be headed. If you're throwing 75 miles an hour and you're, before you enter high school, and then your junior year, you're throwing 78, well, a coach is probably going to say, that kid's probably tapped out. He's probably done. They may look at your profile and say, you know what? That kid was throwing 75 miles an hour before he entered high school. Now he's already up to 84 miles an hour as a junior, or 85. And we look at the frame, that's a kid that's projectable. We can see some growth there. So again, doing one of these type things every year is probably a good idea. I think starting this year, you can go on to the PBR, the prepbaseballreport.com, Indiana. You can find the schedule of events. Again, some people argue that these are a money grab. One of the things that we're doing is our last tournament is a crossroads event. It is a scout event, so there's a lot of information that gets shared there. A lot of coaches are coming to that event to watch our kids play. Another thing that again, it's so crazy that I'm even talking about this in February, but another thing that I kind of wanted to talk with a bunch of people about on our team in the summer is a fall ball type team and schedule going to Grand Park, because Grand Park, all those events have these numbers that you can kind of add to your profile if you have a PBR account already. And so again, by doing some of those fall events, it gets you the opportunity to have some of those numbers tacked on, or coaches may come and watch those fall events because there aren't a ton of teams that play there, and the teams that do go are pretty high level. So again, it's a better chance of having your kids seen. I'd also like to do a Crossroad event in the fall, because again, Crossroads does a great job of compiling video and numbers and sharing those with some smaller schools in and around Indiana and Illinois and Ohio. So way down the road, as that gets closer, we'll kind of talk about who might be thinking about doing that, who would be interested in doing that. But I apologize again for the very long-winded message, but I just kind of wanted to caution you against some of those bigger things that have a lot of schools that may not be the best fit for your kid. I think doing a PBR or a perfect game type event, or like a showcase event, I think is very good to get some numbers to kind of see like where you stack up. As you get into PBR, there's all sorts of different filters that you can do. And again, I don't want to get into that right now, but college coaches can filter kids out. They can look at the class of 2024. I only want to see kids that throw 80 miles an hour and higher, or have an exit velocity of 86 miles an hour and higher. Or again, if you're a smaller coach, they know what they're looking for in terms of numbers. That's where Sports Recruits gives us a tremendous advantage, because like I was saying, what seems like an hour ago at the beginning of this video, if your son doesn't know what they want to do, but you start kind of getting an idea like where these numbers might fit in, you can kind of compare them to other kids. You can start to have that realistic conversation about college with your son, and you can say, okay, look, hey, Cam Knepp, a really good ball player at Northridge, he was throwing 88, 89 miles an hour. You guys have similar body types, similar exit velocities, 60 times. He went to Taylor University. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing? If it is, then you know where to kind of put your money towards. If he says no, then you know what? He just wants to play baseball. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend a dime on any of this recruiting stuff. So having that information and having those conversations is pretty important. So we'll keep doing that. The kids should use Tyler as a resource, because Tyler right now is going through that whole process. But again, if they're not working their tails off, I would not recommend doing these things, because these things aren't cheap. And the last thing you want to do is be I've gone through some of these. I've seen some kids that have some really low numbers, and I just think about the parents. I think I saw one over here, like in this perfect game event. I'm not going to find him now. I was just kind of screwing around in here, but a kid drove all the way from Nebraska to Ohio and was in like the 23rd percentile in terms of like fastball velocity and exit velocity. So you have a kid who drove from Nebraska to go to Ohio, a family was probably like, oh my gosh, we got this personalized invite. Definitely had to pay for a hotel. And that kid is at best probably going to a very small school in and around his hometown, Nebraska. So again, have those honest conversations. Reach out to me when you keep getting those things and you're not sure. Share them with me. I will give an honest opinion about all that, or I will just ask Brian to give me his opinion. But again, I felt like I need to kind of come on here before we have people suddenly throwing around thousands of dollars for things they're not quite sure like what they're going to get. So again, have a great day, Bridget. I think it's your birthday, so have a great birthday. Hopefully the kids are all in school and you have the house to yourself and you can have a nice kind of quiet day. And when they get home, they're not too crazy for you. So happy birthday, Bridget.